And here we are. One of my sisters, Stephanie James. Welcome back.
Oh, it's so good to be here with you, Phoebe. As always, I love being in your presence.
And I love being in your presence. And this is actually this is your first official Space in Between podcast. You came on as an embodied leader in our summit earlier this year, and we shared you with our podcast, that interview. But this is actually our first time officially in the Space in Between. So welcome to the Space in
Ooh,
Between.
love that. Thank you.
Yeah. And, we've had so many beautiful conversations between the two of us. So I love to just dive into it, but I think it would be beneficial for people listening to know a little bit about you and where you are in the world and what you're doing, and then we'll get into the good stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well, as you know, Phoebe, I'm a psychotherapist. I always say I'm a psychotherapist by day, and then I have lots of other hats as a transformation coach and an author and a filmmaker and a presenter. So I keep myself really, really busy and feel like my biggest purpose, I guess I would say, is to really continue to be as clear of a conduit as possible in all those mediums to bring as much love and healing to the world as possible.
Mm,
So I feel like that's kind of my essential thread through all those different platforms and sharing that message of your period healing period matters period,
mm,
as each one of us are these really essential contributors in this fabric of humanity. And I say each one of us are golden threads in the fabric of humanity. Each one of us and our healing are so essential because then each one of us become that clearer conduit so that
mm,
more joy, love, healing comes through to the world.
mm. I just got chills when you said that. And when you're speaking of it, I'm just seeing all of these golden threads intertwine and create this beautiful tapestry. And I feel like every time you and I sit down together, we're threading all of those together and creating more and more of this beautiful tapestry together. And it's such a joy. And we're going to definitely go and talk about how you and I are doing this in person later on. But, when I was sitting here thinking about what am I going to talk to Stephanie about, I was really curious to hear a little bit about your relationship to sisterhood. Like, are you a sister? First of all, like, do you have biological sisters? And what does sisterhood mean to you? Because we're going to talk and dance around this all day, day today.
Okay, this is great. And what a great question. And I have a really unique answer for you,
Yeah.
um, because I am a sister, but not by biology.
Mhm.
My sister originally was actually born my cousin.
Mm.
And so, unfortunately, through tragedy, her biological father was trampled by a horse when
Oh,
she was
wow.
8. And then my Aunt Gwen, her mother, passed away from breast cancer
Oh my God.
when my cousin Colin was 16. And then my parents became her legal guardians.
Mm.
So that was 30 years ago. And so for 30 years, she has been my sister.
Mm.
And, we look alike. So that's great, even though we don't share blood.
Mhm.
And we have such a deep, just really a beautiful connection. And she's so creative and funny and into music. And I have a brother as well. I have a biological brother. And so the three of us have just had this wonderful 30 years together.
Mm.
And I'm so thankful. I always wanted a sister growing up. I always thought that'd be so cool. And, for 30 years, I've got to have this younger sister and
Mm.
weave her into my life and my heart. And so that's been such a special journey for me.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's interesting because I also, in a sense, I was raised an only child, but I have half sisters on either side of my mom and my father's side of the family. And so I sort of had the positive side on both worlds of being a only child and getting all of the attention, but then like you wanting to have a sibling. And then later on in my life, my half sister, my younger half sister came along, and I almost feel like more of an aunt with her because the age difference is so broad. We are 17 years apart. And so in a lot of ways I am like her aunt, or we always joke. And in fact, at her wedding last year, she said, "Is this when you're going to tell me that you're my mom?"
That's great.
Which is a lot of fun to play around with, but no, I'm not her mom. She's my sister. But yeah, but I know that I've had, because I think there was something about not having siblings growing up. I've had some interesting relationships that, could look like sisterhood. And, there were some challenging relationships there. There were some beautiful, loving relationships there. There was a heartbreak there. And I was curious to just learn a little bit more about you, because you and we sat together less than a year ago. And I swear that first time you and I sat together, I was like, oh, she's my sister. And I was kind of thinking, wow, I wonder what that, like on your side of that, what that looks like too, which we'll talk about later. But like, what are some of your sisterhood stories?
Yeah. So thank you for asking that. I do feel so blessed, Phoebe, because before my Aunt Gwen passed, I have this very female matriarchy family. So before my aunt passed, it was always my Aunt Marcia, my Aunt Gwen, my mom, and then
Mm,
my female cousins, Laura and Colin, and I. And then I had a daughter. So,
mhm,
and I was a single mom for 5 years. And it was just kind of this beautiful sisterhood where at one point my aunt divorced. And so she and my cousin Laura, my Aunt Marcia, we all got a house together. I was a single mom, she was a single mom. And I'll never forget we did this beautiful house blessing
mm,
where all the women in the family came together and we
mm,
blessed the house, and then we sat in a circle and we did singing and prayers, and I mean it was just so beautiful. And so there was really this sense, and I was about 25 at the time, so
mm,
this beautiful sense of female connection and true soul sisterhood. And I'm
mm,
so thankful for my Aunt Gwen, because she always brought, I would say, the almost mystical, but definitely the spiritual element to our family gatherings.
mhm,
So you can imagine, here we are in Thanksgiving, and my grandfather, at the time, I remember him being like 68 years old. And here's my Aunt Gwen, brings in the Native American drum, and she's drumming, and we all have to kind of do this little dance in a circle. But it was just so much fun, and it added just such a depth to our
mm,
family and definitely to that sisterhood. So I wanted to share that piece with you. And also, just like when you and I got on together, I mean, there was that instant heart connection and that instant sisterhood. I think that's one of the beautiful things about women, that we can really do that with one another and really drop in that way. And there's this beautiful resonance. And I feel like so many of my soul sisters, I mean, we are heart to heart connected. And there are a couple of them I have never met in real life, just like you and I.
yeah.
But every time we have a conversation, we're lit up and we dive deep and we just have this amazingly rich relationship. So I think that's one of the essential things about sisterhood, is it's not just about the family we're born into or who we're related to by blood. It's how we're connected through
Mm,
our hearts.
yeah. Oh, thank you for that. I feel I have a similar situation in that there was very much this matriarchy in my family. It was my mom and her two sisters. So I had my two aunts as well. And then I was the only child. And then came along my sister and then my cousin. And we have male cousins too, but the bond with the women is a lot stronger than what the men have in our family. And but there was always, I don't know, always felt a little bit like an outsider because I didn't have the aunt that you had with the drums. I was probably the one that wanted that so badly. But there was such a beautiful bond there, I having what I've recognized for myself is that when we're going through the challenges and they're there, they're the first ones that are calling and in the car and making sure that, you're safe and you're protected and you're being taken care of. My grandmother, my mother, my aunts, my sister have all been there for me in some of the most challenging times in my life. And I'm just so very grateful that I had that because um, when you do go outside of your family, and you have these connections like you and I did, you can trust that, when you feel that with somebody you don't actually know and it feels like home, it's like, okay, I feel safe. I can definitely be vulnerable with this person and also share those challenges, but also these beautiful moments too, and celebrate each other and not feel threatened. Because I've actually, and I'm curious to know if you felt this in other relationships with women feeling threatened, because I had that a bit when I was growing up that, as a dancer, there's always a little bit of the jealousy there and competition, and so it was hard for me to trust women outside of my family for a period of time. But now that I have grown and done a lot of healing there, I'm more on that frequency of people like you, and I attract that, and it's just such a gift now because I don't have to, like, go through all of those challenges again. So, yeah, did you have anything like that growing up or in your young adulthood?
Yeah, not so much growing up. I mean, of course, there was the most popular girl in school or something like that, maybe in, high school that you'd say, oh, I mean, I would say, oh, I wish I was as pretty as her or some, comparison. It wasn't, I didn't feel jealous, but I definitely felt that comparison and felt that less than.
Mhm,
And I think when I got out of graduate school and I was running a cognitive behavioral therapy program
mhm,
up in Cheyenne at the mental health center. And that's where I felt the competition with
mm,
other female therapists there. And there really began to be that sense of, wait a minute, we're not all on the same team. I mean,
yeah,
I felt pretty naive and was really taken back a couple times by the backbiting or, some of the viciousness. And when I ended up after that job, I ran that program for 3 years. And then I ended up at the school district. And the school district, is pretty well known. Schools can be where there's a lot of gossiping or there's that kind of stuff that goes on and a lot of female staff. And I'm not stereotyping. I want to be really clear here. And I think that that's something that you'll hear,
mm,
that's something that's common. And I just started addressing it as the counselor of the school. When I found out, for example, there was a time where I had gone out on recess duty and I had forgotten my clipboard. And
mm,
this happens to all of us. And I came back and found out that the secretary had been complaining about me to other people in the office for forgetting my clipboard. And so in a really it was very direct and it was, I guess you could put quote unquote confrontational, but not aggressive at all. But I just said, hey, I just want to talk to you about this
mhm,
because, this is something that I heard. And so I'd rather go right to the source. And I said, we really are all on the same team
mhm,
and we make mistakes. And if you feel that I've done something wrong and you have a feeling about it, or there's something you need to talk about, I would really invite you to talk to me about it
mhm,
because I really want to improve. And we have enough people that come into the school that, we had angry parents and, we had all these different, we were really a Title I school with 73% poverty. We were dealing with a difficult population at times with a lot of domestic violence and drugs and alcohol. I said,
mm,
we're doing battle sometimes all day. We need
mhm,
to be united together.
mm,
And that was really a turning point. Like I saw just a huge difference in her.
Mm.
and really work to continue to promote that among the staff.
Mm. Wow, that's beautiful. And I love how you addressed it in a very neutral way. You addressed that like you said, non-confrontational, but then to really bring her into that we're in this together. And because I think that a lot of times that's where it comes from is that we see this other person as a threat. And so we create that isolation from that person, but we're also creating that isolation from ourselves by speaking negatively. And you actually brought her into the circle by saying that. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
powerful. That's really powerful. I I had a situation, but I was much younger. I was in middle school. And I was the captain of Palms, which is like the dance of you can imagine I'm a dancer. I was in the dance squad. And so I had a co-captain and she became threatened by my enthusiasm. And I was like you, a bit naive that why would anybody care? Like we're all in this together. And, I just love choreographing and I love taking charge. I love being a leader. And she felt a little bit threatened, but instead of addressing that to me, she spoke to somebody else outside of even our squad and actually had her threaten me to beat me up. Yeah. It was very strange. But I spoke to that person and I said, "Listen, you don't know all of the details." And then I went directly to that other person who had, put the mean girl on me with the fists. And I just said the same, very similar, without getting nasty, just being very much like, "Hey, we're all in this together. I'm just really excited about being in this community and I love to take charge, but you can also take charge. Let's take charge together." And I'm not sure at that time and space if she was super receptive to it, but I felt like I felt like, okay, let's go with this head on because it just creates more and more toxicity if we participate in that. And yeah, I think wherever time and space you are, it's important to bring that person into then those people into the circle, into the sisterhood, because it just continues to perpetuate in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you handled that beautifully, Phoebe.
Oh,
And
thanks.
that you do that. I think that is how we resolve conflict, is that we go to the source
Yeah.
and we talk about inclusion.
Yeah.
And how do we create a win-win? And again, we have to also detach from the outcome, that we can't control another person's
Yeah.
reaction or response. And yet what we're doing is we're extending this place where we can really come together and communicate in a deeper way and move towards connection. It's like a totally different message, right? When it's like, I'm not having this conversation to say who's right or wrong.
Mhm.
Instead, I'm having this conversation with the goal and purpose of connection and understanding.
Mhm.
And I think that's how we create that win-win, and that
Mm.
feeling like, okay, we're in this together. Let's problem solve this together.
Yes. Oh, so this is so funny. I love when thing synchronicity happens because today in my community, we're going through a book called Becoming a Hollow Bone. And it's talking about the native system, so mostly First Nation or Native Americans and their way of seeing the world and bringing that to our Western mind of way of thinking. And so today we were talking about the process number 9, which is co-creation. And the very much almost word for word what you just said, it's like we can't control other people and how they're going to perceive, but it's about bringing them into the circle and coming into that co-creative space. And that's why I felt so called to be with you, because as soon as you and I sat down, I felt like, oh, we're not just collaborating on the the summit that we were doing, the Embodied Leadership Summit, but there's going to be so much more here for us. And every time we do sit together, I feel like we're creating a wider circle. And it's just so, so special and so powerful. And the one last thing that I want to share about what we were reading today was there was this beautiful story about her and her grandmother. And her grandmother was saying, to treasure the toys, because she said this to her when she was a child, treasure these toys because they're not just for you in this moment as a child, but for your future generations. because they were also her grandmother's toys and they've been passed down generation to generation. And I feel like what you and I are going to be doing in Mexico in February is having more of an intangible moment, right? Having this circle with other women. And it's about honoring each other and having this reverence for each other. But it's not just in that time and space, but it is hopefully this ripple effect that whatever there are, if there were sister wounds coming in, that we can really see and honor each other and then have us take that home with us and widen our circle of sisterhood. That's my hope.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so beautiful. And I think that's really it too. I love what you're talking about. And I know, because you and I have had these conversations before, that one of the essential pieces of retreat is what happens after the retreat, and how important it is that you and I have spoken about this, that there are things that can truly be integrated,
Mhm.
that are taken home, they're embodied, and then they're lived with that circle of connection that remains there. That's like this supportive, I think of it almost like this safety net,
Mhm.
and that remains.
Yeah. Oh, so can we explore a little bit more about this idea of retreats? And I'm curious to know, because we're going to be leading a retreat, but have you ever participated as a student in a retreat, and where and when? What did that look like?
Yes, yes, I love it. Gosh, I'm one of those people, I feel super blessed that at 19, um, is when I started doing retreats and going to workshops. I literally owe this to my mother had a horticulturist. My mother owned a florist shop for 33 years. And so the woman who ran the greenhouse was a horticulturist, and Carol Ostrom. And she's the first person who introduced me to bigger thought. Kind of at the time, it was Leonard Orr and transfiguration and Sandra Ray and rebirthing. And
Mhm.
she just opened up this whole new world to me of consciousness and thought. And so I feel really blessed that at an early age, I started going to some of these women's retreats. And one that sticks out for me was run by this woman, Grace Marie, who did these beautiful universal dances of
Mhm.
peace. And it was up in Buena Vista, Colorado. And I had invited my really dear friend Mary to come with me. And it was so powerful because they had natural hot springs there.
Oh, yes.
So it was like during the day, we would chant and sing and write in our journals, and just had this beautiful experience. I mean, talk about people's ability to go deep in those retreats. I
Mhm.
mean, as you know, it's just like, okay, the outside world disappears, and here's this wonderful container that the magic and the alchemy happens in. And then after we do that, we'd all go and sit, in these gorgeous, as the stars are coming out, these
Mm.
gorgeously lit from underneath, um, natural hot springs. And so it was so empowering. And it took my relationship, with my dear friend Mary to an even deeper level. And yet I also felt just my heart would just burst open, and just being connected to all the women there. I mean, it was, yeah. And there was probably, I would say 18 to 20 of us there. It was a pretty big retreat.
Yeah.
Um, and as you know, Phoebe, there's something that's just really magical and truly incredible about getting away from the busyness of our lives
Yeah.
and really committing to, like, I'm going to take a step on my soul's journey. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really going to allow myself to dive in and be really present for what's there. And then, like, this magic unfolds. I mean, and that's how we go through, I think, deeper levels of healing and transformation. And I can remember driving home, and, it's through all these mountains.
Mm.
And I wish I never say her name right. It's like, I'm not going to say her name right again, like Prima Deval, but that's probably not how you say her name.
Okay.
But anyway, some lovely spiritual singer, I had her CD that I'd
Oh,
gotten up there.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so all the way down the canyon, I'm just like, ah, like just carrying this gorgeous retreat with me in my heart. And so, and at that time, I would say I was probably 28 for that retreat. And then continued, it's just felt really important to me. I felt like from, 28 on, I started forming my own little, even though they weren't retreats, women's circles.
Mhm.
And just being in that community and then finding retreats that we could go to throughout that time became just, yeah, they've been some of the most incredible, transformative, truly life altering events,
Mm.
sacred events of my life. How about you?
Mm. Well, when you were speaking of
Mhm.
yours, I was just having all these little flashes of moments of past retreats that I was participating in as well. And my first one, it was actually a dance retreat, more or less. I was a dancer. And so I had this opportunity to go to Italy for 3 weeks, and it was essentially a retreat where we were rehearsing every day and taking classes, but we were also traveling Italy and different parts of Italy, and it was a very spiritual experience. And when you were speaking, I was remembering being underneath the stars, and we were watching, there were meteor showers one night, and there were it was a bigger group too. It was probably about 18 or 20 women. Yeah, there were no men. It didn't happen. It was just happened to be like that. They were all female dancers.
Mhm.
But there were a handful of them that this was 20 23 years ago or 22 years ago, and I still have connection with a handful of these women. And I was just seeing them when you were speaking of us laying underneath the stars and talking about our dreams, and being able to have witnessed them so many years later. Yes, maybe it was just on social media, or maybe it's a quick message here and there through, and maybe it is seeing each other once in a blue moon in person, because we've all moved on and had families and traveled in different places, locations. But it was just such a gift. And I thought, oh gosh, who knew back then when I was sitting there that we were going to have this connection, that golden thread that you spoke about before. And I love too what you were speaking of is you ended up dancing, and dance has just been such a part of my life. And I know that there's going to be dancing in ours. I'm sorry, I just bring it.
Yes, please.
Whether you want it or not, we're bringing it. And and then I was also remembering this time that I had just graduated from my yoga teacher training, and a couple of graduates and we decided to go to Kripalu, which is a retreat center in the Berkshires. And it was just so much fun because it was during the day, there was so much very deep work where we were in meditation for most of the day, and then we were in lecture. But then at night, we shared a room together and we just laughed and we cried. And it was like we were the ones getting in trouble because it was, more or less an ashram, right? You're supposed to have lights out and quiet hours, but we were just so excited because we got to know another piece of ourselves in that experience. And we wanted to share, our fun stories too, not just the meditative contemplative stories. But so it was a really special experience. And like you, I started to transition to holding spaces as a yoga teacher, and then I shifted into really retreats about 10 years ago. And it's it's such a joy to, one, I'm going through the transformation just as much as the participants, because what I was doing was a lot of healing too. I had just had a really traumatic year when I first started to hold the retreats, with my father dying and my divorce. And I go in, and this is what a lot of us women do, is we go into give mode, right? Like when we're dealing with tragedy, it's like, oh, well, let me give back, right?
Mm.
It's a little bit of a distraction, but I also received the healing that I needed. Those first retreats, my family was coming on, my mom, my grandmother, they were also coming and participating. And so they had a little level of healing on their own, and then we had one collectively. And then just to be able to hold that space for the participants. And, I have one in particular, she has been on I think 4 or 5 retreats, and she was one of my very first retreat participants, and now, this April, she's going to be hosting her first retreat, and I get to support her. And that is just such a gift because I've gotten to witness her as a student into stepping in as a yoga teacher. Now she's becoming a leader. And that just warms my heart to be able to see the shifts that have happened, like we talked about at the beginning of this, of the after, right? It's not just what happens in those containers, but the ripple effect that happens in their lives after, and to be able to witness that and support that. So yeah, it's a
So
joy.
beautiful. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
How exciting for you. You know, and I love Phoebe because part of what you do is you are the container that helps guide people, retreat leaders into how to really be an effective, wonderful retreat leader. I mean, and
Mm,
so what a cool legacy. I love
mm,
what a special, special gift that you're bringing to these
mm.
women.
Thank you. Yeah. And my dear, you are a special gift. I just cannot wait because I know you talk about it and you light up whenever you talk about these women's circles. And I got to witness a little bit of it in your movie, of how you hold space for other leaders, which is really a powerful experience to be able to witness you. But now I get to do it with you and co-create with you. And yeah, I would just, these last little bit of time we have together, I would love to know what are your hopes and dreams for yourself and for the two of us and for our group, within that container and then beyond it?
Wow. That's such a big question.
I know it is. Sorry.
But I love it.
I
No,
go
I love
big.
it. I love it. You know, part of right now, part of what I'm dreaming right now, um, Anna Dara, who owns Film Nest Studio, she and I collaborated and filmed, as you know, a year ago in June, my women's retreat called Becoming Fierce. And so it was filmed as a 6-part series that we are starting to work on now. And so as we just met this morning, and when we meet together too, I mean, Anna was also one of those people who I dropped in with, and we had this amazing conversation. And I said, oh, well, I'm going to Santa Fe this weekend. I had no idea where she lived. I was going to visit other friends of mine. And she said, well, I live in Santa Fe. Let's meet for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And so it was like, so we've had this beautiful, beautiful sisterhood and relationship. And long story short, that that seeing this new series now come to fruition, where it was 20 women and 6 international thought leaders together for 3 days of powerful transformation, and where the audience gets to be like a fly on the wall and hear the conversations between the thought leaders. And then, so they get to go behind the scenes, and then they also get to see again, as in my first film, that alchemy that's created when the presenters are having their own experience, very much like how I imagine you and I mean, we're already there,
Yeah.
and so seeing that now, I'm feeling the breath of it as we begin to start fleshing it out and get ready to really create. And what do I want to say? Almost like mechanic, I would say, those six sessions. And so anyway, my dream is watching that not only come to a network. We have 2 potential networks for it already in Humanities Team, Humanities Stream, and the More You network on Plex, where my first film is still playing. So watching, I guess what I'm trying to say, Phoebe, is the exciting thing is not only will it be a film, but we're also going to do it as like a 6-part live series that for 6 weeks people would watch an episode, and then one of the presenters will be there for questions and answers.
Amazing.
Um, and so I'm just so excited the potential of that. I'm so excited the concentric circles of healing that will radiate out from that, and the purpose of that to truly empower women being fierce, not being aggressive, but being fierce truly to ignite our passion, our purpose, and to live our most authentic life in full expression. So
Yeah.
that is like the big juice that's really present right now. I am so excited for our retreat together because I love this more intimate model where we're looking at there being 8 to 10 of us
Mhm.
together and really creating this unique, really individually, tailored program so that people are really able to dive deep and get just the fullness of what happens in a small group like that.
Yeah.
There's connection and there's experience. I mean, some of the things we're doing, I'm so excited to be on the beach and do the sound healing and singing bowls as the sun sets, and
Mhm.
cacao ceremony and dancing with you and meditating and singing and yoga and amazing processes to do exactly what I feel like you and I are all about, and that's healing and transformation.
Yeah.
It's just it's my heart's mission. I feel it's your heart's mission, and that's why co-creating this together is such a beautiful happening, and I am so excited. The women that are already going are like so thrilled, and it's so fun because I have some of them in my once a month the Divine Inside women's circle that I do here in Fort Collins.
Amazing.
And so it's so fun to see there's 2 people that are coming already on the retreat that are there, and they're just like,
Awesome. I love
yeah.
that. I love that so
How about
much.
you, Phoebe?
Well, I have a question, a follow-up question
Okay.
first, because when can we find out more about when your movie is launching?
Yeah. So people can always go to my website,
Yes.
which is stephaniejames.world. So just the word stephaniejames.world.
Okay.
And and if you go to events, it will be telling you when things are released. Right now, there's a link there and a trailer to the film that's playing already, When
Yeah.
Sparks Ignite. And
Yes.
so as soon as Becoming Fierce is up and running, there'll definitely be announcements there or on my Facebook or Instagram. That's definitely places people could go to find
Well,
out.
I'm excited to watch that. And I think that it would be wonderful to have that like be the trailer to ours to a certain extent, right? Like, okay, and if you want the real deal, come join us. So
Exactly.
I'm just planting the seed now before that launches, because then our spots are going to fill up, because I have a feeling people are going to watch your Becoming Fierce and say, where can I do this? So I'm just telling everybody who's listening now, you might as well just reserve your spot because it probably won't be there by the time that movie comes out. Um, for me, I feel I'm really curious to see how we come together, because I think that you and I have a really beautiful balance of the structure and the form, and really valuing how to hold space with this, really creating a really safe container. But we also we're both very fluid and go with the flow and very lighthearted beings. And I think that it's going to be a really lovely combination of that feminine and masculine energy that we both can do. Sometimes when I go into partnership with people, one has a more dominant than the other, and we complement each other so well. But I think we're going to complement each other in an even more powerful way, because we both have such a beautiful balance. And whoever enters into this space will feel so held and seen by each of us, and that will allow them to go deeper, right? There, when you feel safe, my new mantra right now is safe is sexy. Safe is the
Ooh,
new sexy.
I love it.
I've
Love
been
it. Love
saying
it.
that, yeah, with my partner, because he creates so much safety for me, and I'm like, oh, I feel so relaxed, because there's something really special when you feel, a lot of times when we go into these circles, in these sisterhood circles, and we're going alone, right? We're coming in, we're like, maybe they know you, maybe they know me, but they don't know anybody else. Or maybe they just blindly saw the retreat and they signed up because they saw something that says, okay, I need to go there. I need to be in Sayulita, or I need to heal my sister wound, or whatever it might be. And they have no idea. And so there might be some bit of resistance or reservation or a little bit of fear, but because you and I know in my heart that we both hold these really powerful safe spaces, such a intimate group, we will not they won't be able to not feel safe and go deep and end up having to, those laughters of in tears and just be able to be that ripple effect when they go home. And that's what we started with this conversation was it's not just what happens in that short period of time. I think it's 6 days. I can't remember, 5 days. I don't
5 days,
remember now.
yeah.
um, but it is going to be that ripple effect that goes, they're going to take that home with them. And whether that is that they just feel more alive in their own heart and soul and they can shine, or they say, how can I do this within my own community and create their own circle of women, or bring more into your circle if they're already part of your circle, and bring more the next time, and so on in my groups as well. So that's what I'm really excited for, is not just the time that we're going to share, but what's going to be happening after.
So
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah, I love that. I love that it isn't just like a drop in the bucket experience.
Yeah.
It's actually like a drop in the ocean, and it
Yes.
just continues to expand and expand. And so
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it, that it really does start coloring people's lives. And one of the things too I wanted to make sure to say is that one of the cool things about these retreats as well is I think you and I have spoken about this, is it's really an opportunity to purge what doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
Again, getting away from the busyness of our lives and being able to just be in your heart, mind, body, and soul in a different way,
Yeah.
and say, like, be able to look and say, okay, there are certain thoughts or beliefs or behaviors or relationships that aren't serving me. And this is such a cool opportunity to say, how do I really hold on to my voice? How do I
Mhm.
hold on to myself? How do I befriend myself and show up in the world once again as the most authentic version, being true to who I am, the essence, that spark
Yeah.
of who I am in the world?
Yeah. And I think what I want to just continue with that thought is there will be tools so people don't just go home and go, oh gosh, I forgot my voice, right? Or I forgot, I want to keep that. We will give them tools to integrate into afterwards too, right? Because I've noticed a couple of things. It's different than a vacation, right? If anybody is listening and they're like, oh, I've never been on a retreat, it's different than a vacation where you just sort of check out, right? And you unplug from the world. You do that to a certain extent, but there is this very deep inner journey. And I know that it takes a little bit of time to reset the nervous system, right? To just be able to turn things off, right? Unplug from the world and give yourself that permission to give yourself that me time in a different way than what it is on a vacation when you're just kind of sitting on the beach. And then there's also that integration of going home and going, wait, I want to keep this. How can I keep this? Right. And I know that we will give them these practices and tools to integrate on that side as well. So there's the before we get there and in the right as they enter into that space where they'll feel held and safe and help regulate their nervous system to receive that more rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system, right? To relax and say, oh, okay, I'm here now. And then continue that as they enter back into their home. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is what is so powerful about really giving them those tools and having those practices. It's like you already established them at the
Yeah.
retreat.
Yeah.
And then it makes it so much easier because it's like, oh, I've been practicing this, even if it's just for 4 or 5 mornings.
Yeah.
Now this becomes a part of who I am. And I feel like because I've experienced this, I can embody this
Yeah.
and take it with me. And so I know that's such an essential piece to you and I, is giving the women things that they truly integrate, assimilate, and take back with them as part of now who they are into
Yeah.
their lives.
Yeah. Keep their spark ignited.
Woo! Love it.
So, yeah, is there anything else that you feel like we haven't talked about in terms of our experience together or anything else that you want to share?
The only thing, Phoebe, that I would want to share is just how absolutely gorgeous and beautiful Sayulita is. If
Oh
we're
my God.
just
Yeah, we haven't even
focusing,
talked about where it
yeah,
is.
if we're just focusing on this particular retreat just for a moment at the very end,
Yes.
is that this retreat we're doing together in February, at Sayulita, Mexico, where my husband and I went last year on our honeymoon. And I just fell in love with this place because the energy and the vibration of the people, I mean, it's palpable. It's like walking into this community where you're just like, you're already held. It already feels, there's just so loving and kind. And we're going to be 500 feet from the beach where we're staying, and just this gorgeous beach. And it's a little slice of paradise. And so
Mm,
just being able to be in that location, you know how this is, Phoebe. It's like certain places just they have heart and soul, and you feel it the moment you're there. And that's how Sayulita was for me. And I was
mm.
like, I am doing my next women's retreat there because it's so beautiful and so amazing. So I'm so excited to have this experience with women at that location.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when you got back from your honeymoon and you were beaming. I mean, of course, because you're in love and you just got married, but you were gushing about this place that we're going to in Sayulita. So I'm excited because I haven't been specifically there, but as I shared with you before, I was in a neighboring area that was just as special. Um, but yeah, I already feel held by this location, and I haven't like I'm tap every time I tap into this retreat of ours, I can feel the beach. I can feel just the sand under my feet and the air through my hair. I'm like, okay. I'm ready.
Love it.
Be
Love it.
there. Let's be there right now.
Oh my gosh. And
Mm,
what a perfect time, at least
yeah.
for we Coloradoans, where it's cold here. And we're going to be there in the middle of February, where it's
Yes.
just beautiful and balmy. And what a
Yes.
great, great respite
It is.
and rejuvenation. I'm so thrilled to be doing this with you.
Me too. I know. I that is the dead of winter. February 18th we begin through the
Mhm.
23rd, and that is pretty much when I am like on the East Coast going, okay, do I okay, I'm pasty white. I haven't seen the sun in so many days. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
let's just put the covers over our head. So I'm very excited for the timing as well as the location and the company that I'm in with you and with our beautiful group that's coming together. So, yes, thank you for asking me, and I'm grateful that I said yes because there's going to be a lot of magic that unfolds for us in our group. And we will have the link here in our show notes. And again, it's February 18th through the 23rd in 2024. It's igniting your spark. If we did not already say that enough, we're igniting our spark. It's a women's sisterhood retreat. And any other tiny details that I need to remember? No, we're
I
good.
think you've got it. You've got
Yeah.
it.
And we'll also have a link to your website, Stephanie, so that people can follow you and also on your social media, as well as when that movie comes out, because we're going to drop this episode very soon. And I know that it's coming out in within a month, I think, right? In a
The
month or
Becoming
so.
Fierce?
Yeah, becoming fierce.
No, actually, we're still working on the pilot.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
That's
Phoebe. Gotta
okay.
wait a little bit. Gotta
I'm
wait a
just so
little
excited
bit,
for it. Okay.
but
Well, they can go watch Ignite Your Spark.
when
Yeah.
Sparks
The Sparks
Ignite,
Ignite.
you
Sorry. When
can
Sparks
see
Ignite.
that.
That's
Yeah,
right.
they can see that right now for free on Plex Network on the More You
Okay.
channel, or on Humanity Stream Plus, which is
Okay.
the new. Actually, I must say, if you want to see the film, I love Plex Network. And if you want to see it without commercials, Humanities Stream. So you would go to Humanities Team filmmaker.org.
Okay.
And the film will be there. And I'm going to have something up on my website really soon so that
Okay,
people
good.
can just click a link and go right there.
Okay, perfect. But I think that they should sign up for your newsletter too, so that they get that notification when Becoming Fierce comes out, because I'm excited
Absolutely.
for that.
Yeah. So on my website, there's a free gift there right when people
Okay,
get on, which
perfect.
is this 3 C's to start your morning. And so if people just click there, I will get your email address and I will send you all the wonderful information in my newsletters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Stephanie, I love you. Thank you for being such a beautiful sister. And I can't wait to give you a hug in February for real
Me
life.
too. I know. I know. I love you too. And I'm just sending you the biggest hug right now. And so thankful to be here with you and so excited to be with you in February.
And I feel like it's a group hug. So everybody listening, they're part of this hug that we're giving.
I love it. Yes.
Yes. Oh, thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Phoebe.